It's a pleasure to be with you again. The topic is the state of human rights on our continent. You can't totally study that state of situation of human rights in our continent unless we take stock that we are the continent that is totally colonized, few countries, a continent that faced colonialism, slavery, apartheid, genocide of Rwanda, and many other background and baggage that we keep on, and its impact on our daily life and on the future of our generations. Nevertheless, despite all of that, there is a slight progress. Africa has its own Charter of Human Rights and People's Rights, which differ them in its people's rights, differ the African system of human rights from the European system of human rights, from United Nations of human rights, from Americas also, which have their own system. We have our system, which is Charter, Commission, Court, and an arsenal of conventions and protocols that has been ratified by the majority of our countries, of our 55 countries, members of AU. The human rights, it's, as you all know, there is the first generation, which is the political rights, then organized by the Charter. Then there is the second generation, which is socio-economic rights, which is universal also convention on socio-economic rights. Then there is the third generation, which is this reproduction and environmental and the right of sexuality and gender issues, which is the third generation that is still keep growing and keep. When it comes the problem that and the issue that President of Mauritius raised about corruption. Corruption is not longer only government stealing some of the public resources. Now, corruption is used as a lethal arm to attack and to corrupt people. So, you know, today, maybe you follow the news, there is 6 members of European Parliament arrested because Morocco bribed them. It's Europe who was lecturing us about human rights. It's the Vice President of European Parliament in jail because Morocco bribed her to pass a resolution on Nostra Sahara or to be quiet on Nostra Sahara. With another 5 members, among them President of the Human Rights Commission of European Parliament. She's in jail. Cosolino, you name the names of Cosolino, Panzeri, Anna Arena, the other parliamentarian Tarabella of Belgium, and many other, and 60 other members of European Parliament are under investigation because Morocco have been distributing bags of euros using their intelligence and their diplomacy to. Now, that is Europe because they have the ability to process and to prosecute those who were bribed by Morocco. In Africa, they are bribing more than they are doing in Europe. Ambassadors, big dignitaries, officers of African Union, like the former chief of staff of Madame Zuma coming from Cote d'Ivoire, who was bribed to pass some. Morocco developed the use of corruption not only inside Morocco with the Moroccan elite, but also to use it as a tool to fight against the Sahrawis and against the United Nations, against Europe, and against the African Union. So that's a new use of corruption as a new violation of human rights, as a tool, a lethal tool, that's in addition to Pegasus, to Israeli drones, to Pegasus, to many. When we say decolonization, it's only Western Sahara. Comrades, we have 3 countries in the continent that are still in a non-finished process of decolonization. There is Comoros, the most beautiful island, it's Mayotte. It's under the occupation of France, and France is refusing to negotiate with the Comorese government. And Comor doesn't care about decolonization of its own territory, sadly enough. Last week, brothers from Madagascar have died trying to join Mayotte in a boat, and they 16 of them have passed away, like exactly what's happening to Europe. There is Mauritius, Diego Garcia, Chagos. Then there is 4 islands of Madagascar, also under occupation of France. And there is La Réunion, which is not far from here. Then there is Ceuta and Melilla, Morocco, which Morocco have sold out to buy the silence of Spain towards Western Sahara. So decolonization is still a problem for our continent. The goal that we have set, that our founding fathers and the great leaders of our continent to start still is not finished. Yes, Western Sahara is the biggest territory, but there are other peoples and other territories still under the joke of colonial domination in those countries. Today, as we speak, Morocco have, after 30 years refusing to run away from African Union, have paid lip service, have signed the Charter of African Union, have ratified it, the king have signed it, the government have adopted it, the parliament have passed it, but they are refusing to implement it. They don't care about respect of frontiers and the independence. They don't care about the human rights of the Sahrawis. They don't want the African Union to play any role in the resolution of the conflict. They daily violate the human rights of the Sahrawis. Last week was a report by the Department of State of America. The war since many years. Of course, human rights, unfortunately for the West, was a tool to fight the East. But once the East is no longer there, the West no longer funding the human rights organization, doesn't do anything about human rights. Since Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo Bay, where America pride have been tainted by human rights violations, human rights become a secondary goal for the West to advocate for. But there are a lot of good people really in the West and in the Eastern Africa who care about human rights and defend them. There is also the problem of resources. The Western Sahara conflict is mainly about resources. The richest country in the world, there is the biggest stock of phosphate, the biggest stock of fisheries, of iron, gas, gold, phosphate, and a very small population. That's why the conflict keep on, and that's why the European have forgot about their own constitution and their own regulation to keep fishing with Morocco in Western Sahara waters and for Western Sahara phosphate. When it comes to resources, the West doesn't care about human rights, doesn't care even about a ruling of the very European Court of Justice, which says these deals are illegal. But for Spain and France, they don't care. They continue fishing regardless of what their own court have said. This is the very dangerous trends in the world that we are facing. They don't care about the rule of law or the ruling of the court or the human rights charter or the resolution of the Constitutive Act of Africa. They just want the resources and that's it. Maybe they will go back to colonialism and to slavery again as they started in the last centuries. That's why we have to be vigilant, we have to be alert, and we have to defend our rights. I thank you, Professor Moderator, Professor David. I thank all the panelists and the public. Thank you very much. All the best.